Hey guys, how's it going? And this is Tyriel, and welcome to the fifth Project LP1 video where I try to take down Uber with deterministic LP1 items and reasonable gear. This week is Stormcrow Beastmaster. First of all, I want to credit Sandstorm here with their 57-second Uber kill. They posted a planner that I used to take some bits and pieces from, and I have two other planners that we're going to go over, and we're taking a look at the actual gear that you wear during the Uber kill, and then also the snapshotting gear. If you're not familiar with the way Stormcrows is played on this fight, you utilize snapshotting, which is a technique where minion stats are locked when they are summoned based on the player's gear and stats at that moment. So you can do things like buff your character, which is specifically how Jeweler Stardial works. And you can also do other things like change your gear afterwards, and the minions will still have those stats inherited to them, and they will be able to utilize them in a full essential DPS mode. So you can see this as one set of gear, you're wearing as much minion stats as you can possibly get with full DPS. You have low defenses, so we're not worried about capping anything here because it doesn't matter. And then you're swapping over to the playing section of gear where you're trying to survive as much as possible. Your resistances might be more rounded out. You might have more armor. You probably have more life, etc. This essentially is broken in a lot of games. It's why it has been removed, but it's not a simple task to remove that usually. And this causes you essentially be wearing two sets of gear, which allows you to build both offense and defense at the same time and in extreme directions, and you have to make less trade-offs than you might normally would. So you can see in Sandstorm's Uber kill, we can play sections of this. The Storm Crows do absolutely cracked amount of damage. This was our case as well. Even with the LP1 setup, they do a massive amount of damage, and the only real problem comes from their survivability when you need them to live the most. They get killed by pretty much everything in the arena. And you also do not have 2800 HP with ward on top of that for the LP1 section. The LP1 kill is not this smooth. I'll get into it at the end of the video like last time, but it's definitely doable. With the amount of troubles, in my opinion, that minions have, both being directed where you want them to be, uh, just not being where not being in pizza slams, it's not possible to really move them out. Even when you're using the minion direction key, I tried it for a little bit, it was very painful to try and micromanage the minions and also the fight at the same time. There's a lot of really sad things happening here, and it feels like you're being punished for playing minions, and the snapshotting is really the only reason that this build can kill this boss. So let's take a look at what ended up being our sections of gear here. So we have our snapshotting gear here. We're gonna wear, death rattle. It's gonna be everything's gonna be damaged as much as possible, right? So we're gonna do T7 minion damage slams on this. We're running, minion melee damage, minion spell damage for Apogee the Frozen Light. On Jeweler Star Dial, we're running increased minion damage, and we're also what we're doing before we summon the crows, and I can show you in game when I'll load this up. When you're using a movement skill or traversal skill, all stats in the items are tripled for 4 seconds. So you're wearing two of these, so you're double you're doubling these stats and then tripling them, so you're essentially giving all of that minion damage to your Stormcrows when you summon them after you get buffed. We're running Raven's Rise, which is T7 Strength slammed into it. You're running minion damage, because I'm pretty sure this is one of the only slams that gives minion damage on boots. So there's another form of minion damage. And then you're running again minion damage, minion health regen, and then you're running, let's see, a living seed. So you have damage leeches health, minion damage leeches health, those things. So minion damage, minion health. No surprise there. On your idols, you're going to be running pen, cold damage, cold pen, cold damage all the way through. This I don't know why he's running bees. I don't know why he's running bees. I just trusted it and put it on there, and I'm running bees. So if somebody knows, you can certainly drop me a comment and let me know. I didn't investigate it fully. I thought it might be the fact that chance to gain haste on 3 seconds when a nearby enemy dies. I thought it was going to give us haste until I read that it was nearby enemies. I didn't check to see if it worked anyways, and might have been bugged or something like that, and people are using it. I don't think that's it, but I still don't, know why bees were a thing, and I never really cared. The As for the actual planner, we're looking at still some minion stats here, but instead we're worried about living. This I thought was super interesting because this build is not based around having a massive amount of HP. I mean, obviously he's running around with 3029 HP. That is much, much more than I had during the kill. Obviously, LP1 suffers a lot when we're talking about defenses. It can be very, very difficult. So the main things in this build for slamming though is going to be health regen. It's pretty much everywhere. So health regen on the amulet, on the time glass. You would actually want health regen on the red rings. I'm upset that we had to use red rings. I really didn't want to use red rings, but you can see that I didn't put anything on them. I did not slam them because my live character does not have LP1 red rings, and I've played many hundreds of hours and have never seen an LP1 red ring drop. I know they're a lot easier to get this season, but I have to say that we couldn't get the kill without them. There's many, many times where I would die trying to do it, just I get whacked and I can't. And I just take too much damage. You need the less damage. You need the attributes. You need the everything that this comes with it. It makes things much, much easier. So I just put on 2 red rings that have 0 LP on them. I think that's pretty fair. I definitely produced red rings organically in my live character this season. I was able to Rune of Ascendance one of them, I think after 800 some runes, but I think that's kind of lucky. I know that you can buy them off of MG, and then you have the prophecy for CUF. So I think finding your first red ring is relatively reasonable, and then imprinting it and getting a second one, I think is more reasonable than it ever has been. So I'm sorry that that's what we had to do is actually wear red rings in this run, but I do think they are needed, and they helped out a lot with not dying on some of the attempts. For belt, we're looking at health regen, same story. Strength, I believe, is slammed for damage. This is health and health regen, similar theme. These things aren't swapped, so the helmet, I'm pretty sure, yeah, crit multi, yeah. So the helmet, the Apogee of the Frozen Lights, the Mantle of the Pale Ox, the Raven's Rise, those are not all swapped when you're swapping between your snapshotting and your build where you actually kill Uber. I don't know if there is a potential for snapshotting more than it was. I was definitely trying to find a mix of it because it's very annoying when you have to resummon all of your stuff and recast all your buffs and swap out all your gear every single time you die and you want to try Uber again. At one point, I had a full section of idols, like the entire thing. I would drop all of these idols on the ground except for bees, attach an entire snapshot of idols that was all damage, and then I would pick those back up in the ground in my inventory and then swap them back when I needed to go do the boss. This was absolutely tedious and annoying and not fun, and just don't do it. I mean, you're not going to want to do it. You can if you want to. It just feels really terrible. Blessings here gonna be void resistance because you need it badly. You don't really get it from any other source. All resistance, armor. This is going to be shred. I considered also armor to try and live in some of the hits. Some of my kills or potential kills were being ended by getting meleeed late in the fight. It was just over, and I had some really good attempts that were just done. So I considered this being armor because I wasn't sure how much the shred, the cold resistance was actually helping. And then surprise, more health regen. Now, this is sort of the setup. You'll see the kill here in a minute, and I'll sort of explain what's going on. And I can show you really quick. I can show you really quick the setup on how we go through and start the fight, and then I will show you the kill and sort of explain the strategy that worked out the best for the LP1 kill. It looks very different than Sandstorm's kill, but I'll show you what's up when it comes to the snapshotting. It's very simple. It's relatively straightforward. It's just tedious and annoying to do every single time you have to do it. So here we are. We have my Beastmaster that killed it. I'm gonna swap into the timeline really quick. And here's the setup. So I'm already wearing the snapshotting gears, the death rattle, and the start else and stuff like that. So for this, you just need to use a traversal skill. So using a traversal skill will proc the star dials, and then you will essentially want to summon your crows after that. So if the crows are already out, you can pull them off your bar. So if they were
Impossible.
out, you pull them off their bar and they will disappear. So I have all the snapshotting gear on, everything's good to go. So I will leap, I will war cry, and then I will storm crow. So now they're out and they're ready to party, and all you need to do is you swap your rings, you swap your belt back, your relic, and your boots. And then I was doing these two idols in the bottom corner because the endurance threshold, I'm just below it. I actually would do one more. One more of them would help out. I think it's another 2 or 3 endurance. Yeah, it would get me really close to 60, and that would probably be a perfect setup for that. But I last night forgot to pick up my idols when I was swapping them, and I didn't want to regenerate them, so I just left it as is, and this is what I have for the kill. So let's swap back to my desktop really quick, and I'll show you how the kill went. Um, this is very interesting because it was quite different
Such
than Sandstorm's kill because my
truly
gear is my gear level is so
sensational.
different. I have way less HP. I'm way more fragile. You can see here that I start this off. I've tried many, many times to move the laser in different directions to try and get them out of the way of the birds. The problem is everything kills the birds. Since you don't have LP2 items to snapshot health regen on the minions or health on the minions, you spend a lot of time micromanaging them so they don't die or getting lucky so they don't die. Half of this fight at this gear level is absolute blind luck on whether or not your birds take a pizza to the face or they don't or they get hit by an orb and or you might be able to res them. It's very bad mechanically. It's not fun to play like this. So you on that opening circle, all you're playing for is a hope that he gets stunned out of it. If he does not get stunned and he slams, all the birds die, and it's essentially a reset. So just die with it and reset and go back and do the entire summoning again. If he does not get stunned out of that, you absolutely have to reset. It's just a totally wasted run, which sucks. It doesn't feel fun to play like that. So when he first gets stunned, the next thing he's likely going to do is cast a frozen black orb. If you drop this over on top of the minions, they instantly have problems. They will eventually die from the orbs hitting them. They do not get enough HP back. There's no way, even with the leech the way it is, this just sucks. So it was my first objective was to drop this orb over here and then leap back to the minions. Now, the way you sort of have to play this is, or want to play this, is you want him facing you and you want to be facing the opposite side of your minions. I feel like there's a complicated way of you want the minions in his backside and you want to be in the front side. And that if you can do that as much as possible, that is because all of the things that come your way, so meteors, ground slam, pizza, all of the safety is at the back of him and you can move after he starts those things. So if he starts pizzaing you, he starts piecing the front of you and the side and the other side, and you can jump to the back. If the birds are in the back, they don't die. If they aren't in the back, they basically all die, and you start over again because resummoning them is an absolute nightmare. Even though I did do it in this kill. So here, turning the boss away as much as I can. The other problem with this is he usually jumps backwards, and at the top of the map, you cannot get into this corner. So he is now as far as he possibly can be, and there's no room for you to be up there, which sucks. I can't fully turn the boss away from the minions. So if he does pizza here, all the minions basically die. But the good news is the damage in this build is absolutely cracked, even at LP1 status, and you just transition him as fast as possible. There was plenty of times where I didn't transition him here and he would slam and kill the minions and it's over. It's easier to just restart than try and salvage the run. So here when he transitions, I really badly because the minions are not easy to replace even if you're using the minion key. uh, I need him to channel meteors away from the minions. So here I am putting a little distance between me and him. If there is distance between me and him, as I've talked about before, when he starts this secondary phase 2, he will start channeling meteors almost 100% of the time. There's sometimes he doesn't do it, but it's generally the distance is the trigger. So he starts channeling meteors. My crows are in a relatively safe spot. The Harbinger comes out, and now dealing with the Harbinger is just normal. Burst it down. Yeah, but you can even stand in things. The HP regen on this build is crazy. You actually have a lot of survivability. In Sandstorm's video, I think they just tank almost absolutely everything. I can't tank everything, and in fact, it is somewhat fragile in certain areas of the fight. There's plenty of deaths where I just get whacked and I get mowed over and I die, but the HP regen is crazy, and it's actually a really cool way to play a build if you haven't like that. So Harbinger dies, you need to continue pumping out damage. You can see I'm standing. This is one of the reasons why we capped our void res. Being able to stand in this is super important. War Cry does cleanse the frailty stacks. You take a point in War Cry to make sure that happens. And you just want to continue pumping out damage as much as possible. So inside of, let's see, give me 1 second. Inside of the swipe tree, this node is really important. Primal Resonance. When you use swipe and hit at least one enemy or nearest companion, uses its companion ability and is restored to full health. This is super important for both damage and survivability of the crows. It's you want to be able to point the boss somewhere else, and then while they're at the back, and if they start taking damage from any of the other stuff, you want to be swiping as much as possible to reduce the damage they take by making their health full again, and also increasing the DPS. When you're swiping too, you have a really high chance to trigger stuns from everything that's going on. So it's more DPS. You want to be constantly spamming the swipe. You want to be spamming War Cry, and you want to be spamming Storm Crows, and you also want to be working in the what is it, Tempest Strike, I think it is. Tempest Strike as much as possible. So we've this is going great so far. Obviously, this is the kill, but I've had lots of stuff just end here, end in phase two when the Harbinger doesn't die easy. She teleports 6 times and you can't really get a hold on it. It really sucks sometimes. So we transition here. This is we're going to death right now. um in this is crazy. Inside of Sandstorm's video, you can see here that he jumps on the Harbinger right as it comes out. We're transitioning into this phase, and when he slaps death, he slings 4 deaths into all the birds. His birds do not die. I think my birds die in 1 or 2 hits of death. They are so much weaker. I cannot tank them whatsoever. I have to try and manage, sending the death beam somewhere else. I mean, you can see the birds are dying to literally just the void beams. They are very fragile. There's so many runs where the birds are all dead and you can't do anything, and the run is essentially over. I think this is so right here. I notice I have 3 birds up. I think the other 3 are dead. You can't spend time sitting inside of this and sitting still. It's an instant death sentence. Everything in this fight is based on movement, especially at this level. So right here, I was either trying to decide that I was going to, be greedy and sit in one of these, or I was considering re-snapshotting everything and doing it in the fight. You don't really want to be able to, you don't want to be doing this, but this is what ended up doing. So the re-snapshotting during the fight is obviously very difficult. It is hard to monitor what Uber is doing while you're literally changing gear. So the best strategy I came up with is you want to desummon the crows and instantly reselect it. So this cooldown starts coming up. All the crows will be done, and then you go through your swapping. So you right click, move, and then right click, right click will get you everything swapped. And then now all you need to do is wait for the star dial cooldowns to come up and make sure you don't die. So right now, essentially all of your defenses that you did have are your health regen is way low. It's like a quarter of what it actually is when you're wearing this gear. So you're very fragile. Anything that hits you will basically kill you. This is actually really good here where he pizzas me because I know it's super easy. I'm not going to die. I didn't know if the start out cooldowns were up. So I rolled here, or I dodged here, dodging here, and there wasn't a buff, which means they were not ready to be procced. Because if I had buffed right here, I probably would have summoned right here, but I didn't, so I have to spend more time. So I war cried, I leaped, I procced the start out cooldowns, which means my stats are buffed and I'm ready to snapshot, and then I pump out the crows. So now that the crows are out, all I need to do is the opposite of what I just did earlier. Right click, drag, click, 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 and then we're fully swapped it back. Now, that is really, really difficult to do. I've died so many times trying to do that exact thing where like he'll just pizza from off screen and kill you while you're trying to do that. Or he'll pizza afterwards and I dodge it, and then all the birds instantly die again after I snapshot them and I just teleport out of the arena because I'm not that run is over. It's terrible. Right here, I definitely thought I had the greatest chance to kill him so far. This is easily the best run that I've had. I was really worried about this death that went off because it killed 2 birds. I've never been in this phase. I've never been right here. I had how many pulls did we have? 76 attempts to get this kill. I've never been to this spot. So the cool story is when we got here with 3 birds up and, possible for 4 or 5 or 6 to be up if I stand in here for a little bit, we one-shot it. The minute we got into the final phase, it was over. But getting there is quite a lot of work. So I'm here, I'm thinking everything is gonna be fine. All I needed, yeah, I needed to pump out damage, I needed to not stand in beams, I needed some birds to live through this. I actually didn't know this was gonna happen, because I've never played a character that can just easily stun the boss. So I thought I was gonna get a full channel of the void beam there. I didn't, because they stunned him out of it, and then he started walking towards the middle of the arena, which actually made me panic because I was worried that I wasn't gonna have enough damage. But then when that dropped on him, I realized we are totally fine. I am absolutely gonna kill the boss. Everything's gonna be okay. So there we go. Finally, it's over. Micromanaging minions, not fun. 0 out of 10 fun on the fun list. It's so horrible. There are so many random attempts where all of your minions are dead, all the fun is over, and you feel punished for playing that character. It is not fun. I don't suggest it. It's probably more fun at higher LP status, right? When you have all of the things that require at the gear level that is required for that fight, where the minions stay alive, they can actually take some damage, and you can refresh their health with the swipe cooldown, and they stay alive. I'm sure it's much better. But if you're not at that level, again, this is going to suck, which is not surprised because we're talking about. I think we're at 5 kills for LP1 gear. There seems to be a decent amount of classes that can kill Uber at LP1, but every one of them tends to be a struggle except for Falconer. I don't, and in some way, ES is relatively good as well. But it's still a lot of attempts to kill stuff in comparison to Falconer. So Falconer is currently reigning supreme, and if they nerf it, it will be a different story. But that is the kill. I want to go ahead and play it in full for you guys, and then you'll see all the gear and everything that's attached. I will add everything that I know about in the description for you. I hope you guys enjoy this series. It takes a lot of time to put all this together, many, many hours over the weeks, and I can't always spend time doing it, and I often don't have fun doing it when it's going really poorly. So luckily, Stormcross is actually relatively fun, minus the micromanaging and the snapshotting. Can be really frustrating, but I think the build in general is really cool. If the developers of Last Epoch want to stop minions from dying on bosses and major attacks, just like they did in WoW, so people have to worry about doing mechanics instead of having to worry about micromanaging their minions, I think that would be very great for the game, and then they can rebalance minions to the point where it's reasonable. Now, should Stormcrow do this much damage? Probably not, because it's absolutely insane. So if they were just up all the time and pumping out massive amounts of damage, you never had to worry about them, then it's probably very unbalanced, and you would have a new Uber killer that would be better than Falconer. But it's it needs to happen, in my opinion. Managing the minions is the least fun part about this build. So if you don't like managing that stuff, I wouldn't trend towards it. So here's the kill. Hope you guys have a good time. I'll see you in the next one.
Such wasted potential. Orobis would have welcomed you. You fight. The void hungers. See the beauty we were denied. Terror turned her back on us.
No master greater than Oryx.
Impossible. Impossible. For our world apart. They deserve their fate. We treated the world no better. Death is our legacy. Die. For a dead world. Pathetic. Impossible.